So I was racking my brain on things to do for this speech, and Miss Gray said that I should let Alexa write my speech. Alexa, the little Amazon speaker, y'all probably see it on TV all the time. That didn't work. Every time I said, Alexa, write my graduation speech for Crescent, Mr. Jackson's voice would pop up and say, Dadgummit, you're going to give your own dang speech. So here I am. Another thing I've done is look on the internet for ideas. The most common thing I see about great speeches is that they appeal to the entire audience. Miss Arnold tells me that the theme for the speech is supposed to be home is where the story began. So what is that really? I've thought about how to make that appeal to the entire audience. There are kids in the audience and senior citizens as well, so I needed something for everyone. That's why I'm basing my speech on the Three Little Pigs. Before I get into this, I know we live in a politically correct world, so let's be clear. I don't want to offend anyone or anything by mentioning pigs. I don't want to defame or offend any other excluded animals. My use of the word pigs isn't intended to call out anyone who is overweight or underweight. This isn't meant to offend men or women, young or old people, tall people. I don't know where Mr. Crocker is. Or short people, long-haired, short-haired, or even bald-headed people, wherever Mr. Jacks is. I don't even know if the pigs were male or female. We'll just let them be gender-neutral pigs. We all know the story of the Three Little Pigs. Each built their house out of different things. One little pig built a house of straw, another built a house of sticks. We know what happened to the first two. The big bad wolf came and he huffed and he puffed and he blew those houses down. And he ended up eating those two pigs. The third pig, though, was smarter. It probably researched things, consulted a well-known pig contractor, and built a house of bricks. When the big bad wolf came along, what did he do? He huffed and he puffed so very much that he eventually worked himself into a mess, and he didn't make it. So, how does this story relate to the theme, home is where the story begins? What we don't know about the Three Little Pigs is the backstory. If there were a prequel, my guess would be that the first two little pigs weren't very prepared to go out on their own, while the third had been. That third little pig was ready for the world. It was prepared for the challenges of the big bad wolf of life and was ready to face them head on. My guess is that the pig had been prepared due to influences in its little gender-neutral life. That third little pig success story definitely began at home. When I personally speak of home, I'm talking about our families, churches, communities, and schools. Some of our paths have been relatively smooth, and we've been blessed with parents and guardians who have sacrificed whatever was required to provide what we needed. For others, that path from our homes hasn't been so easy. There have been challenges for us all, some greater than most. I think about our own class and some of the challenges that we've had to face and continue to battle and conquer. But look where we all are today. We're sitting here getting ready to graduate. There's no doubt that for all of us, home is where our story began. The beauty of this, though, is that all of our stories are different. As I talk, think of your own personal experience. For me, my story is a good one. I have a mom and a dad who have pushed me to do my best and have loved and encouraged me when I've struggled. My mom truly has mastered the art of pushing me. I even have a sister who, even though she won't admit it, is going to miss me when I go off to Wofford next year. I have grandparents who will do whatever I ask and love me unconditionally. Our experiences have given us memories that we will carry as we move on to the next chapter of our story. We've had some awesome student sections at games. We have developed friendships, courtships, and even championships that we will remember for a long time. I will never forget going to the movies and eating out with our group many times, even though our group was often, and still is, very complicated at trying to plan things. From a school perspective, think of teachers and coaches who have contributed to your story. Mine are clear. In elementary school, Miss Phillips pushed and pushed and pushed us to always do our best. She was tough, but she loved us too, and we knew that. At Crescent, Coach Patches made me feel a part of the soccer team. He even checked on me often, in spite of the issues that kept me out of soccer all season and from school for months. Coach Martin would come from wrestling practice and stay at Crescent till 8 or 9 o'clock to keep me caught up in AP Calculus. None of these people had to do what they did it because they cared. They made themselves an important part of my story and helped me prepare for my own next chapter. We've learned lessons along the way, some helpful, some not. The ones that stick with me may not be helpful, but are definitely memorable. Here are a few lessons I've learned on my journey through Crescent. Number 1, don't talk in the hallways during testing. Number 2, if you're on any athletic playing field and see DD running at you, get out of the way, because that's not the time to be a hero. Number 3, never ask Coach Martin any question and expect a non-sarcastic answer, because it's probably not going to happen. Number 4, if Coach Adams is coaching and softball is playing, expect a win. Number 5, don't mess with Mr. Brown about his 8-hour-long Snapchat stories. It's not worth the struggle. 6, if it says AP in front of any class, it's hard. And finally, and no offense, Ms. Parnell, don't worry about actually filling out your work-based learning logs on a daily basis. Nobody does. If there had been a sequel to The Three Little Pigs, my guess is that that third little pig would have gone out into the world after its confrontation with the big bad wolf and built an empire. Regardless of the path that got us here, we are, like the third little pig, at least somewhat ready for the challenges of the big bad wolf that we call the real world. We have made it to this point of being on the verge of high school graduation. Our story, at least the ending of this chapter, is a good and positive one. There is no doubt that our story began at home, but today our story continues from here. My challenge to each of you here today, fellow members of the class of 2017, is that you write your very own individual rest of your story. Be who you are, not who someone wants you to be. Be positive, be committed, be nice, love God, love others. Write your own rest of the story, and always be a Tiger. Thank you.